Hey y'all, it's Kyle with Inshore Edge. Today's video, we'll title it Transitional Trout. So we were able to find a decent amount of trout, got a few for the cooler, take home, and a good number we let go along one of our coastal rivers, and essentially where it opens up into our Mississippi Sound. That's a very popular kind of spot this time of year as our trout make their way from the bayous and bays out into our sound and eventually to the islands. That's all about salinity and spawning, which they will do in a few months. So basically what I'll show you through the video is how we go about finding those fish and where they're located as they make that big migration out. So hope you enjoy it. So I'm throwing the mid-stroll again, kind of just as a search bait, trying to find trout again amongst all these mullet up here. So I'll do that for a little bit until I get bit. When I find another pod of trout, I'll throw the bigger baits. If I wasn't trying to create a video for y'all and teach along the way, I just throw the big baits all day and risk no bites. Because it really is fun. That anticipation of getting a big fish, bigger bite. But it's not gonna help content-wise. Breaking down, teaching other things that I wanna impart and I love to do also. You know, especially a day like today. You know, I'm just not catch and releasing. I wanna put some in the cooler, so competing interest. Need to find some keeper fish. There he is. There he is, right in the hole. So it's interesting, like, you know, the bigger fish will be up on these flats, and then there's a cut right here with a deeper hole, like 5-6 feet, and sure enough, that's where a smaller fish was hanging out, and maybe there's more. But it's a great example of what big fish will do and smaller fish will do. Smaller fish will often be more comfortable in the deeper water. And a lot of times it's because that deeper water has smaller bait. You know, you'll have like the little 2 to 3 inch baits will be in that smaller, deeper water. And that's where it'll be it's a more appropriate size for fish this size. Might be a keeper. Got him on that mid-stroll. That's a 5 1/4 inch freeloader. Pretty good sized bait. You can see eating sized trout have no problems eating it. He's 15 1/4. So we'll put him in a live well. Like I said, when I'm out here fishing, I use a live well for two purposes. One, if I'm keeping fish, I typically want to clean at least 4 trout or more. And so I'll put the first 3 or 4 in the live well. That way, if things go bad during the day and I don't get on them, I can let those go and not mess with cleaning them versus put them right on ice. Also, when I catch bigger ones, I've got that live well primed, ready to go, so I can do what I want to do, weigh them, take pictures, release, etc. So what's going on right here? We've got these shell islands, current. Pretty much the whole thing's a flat, except for these little carved out channels in between each one. Not big, just little holes where the current kind of concentrates. And often that'll hold your keeper sized trout with the bigger fish getting up on the flats. Now, a lot of the smaller fish will too move up on the flats as the water rises. But I can already see on the flats, I got big mullet is the main bait source, and I can see little glass minnows or baby pogies flipping in this deeper water, probably being chased. So that's kind of a visual to look for. So the bigger picture, why are these fish here? So this is at the mouth of the Pascagoula River, essentially the mouth. And so our trout are migrating out of the marsh this time of year. Early March, early to mid-March, heading out front, heading to saltier water to eventually spawn around May. Lots of food out here too. Mullet, young pogies, starting to fill in on the outer areas here. Warming water temps. And so essentially this area here is on the route, on the migratory route out. It's just off to the side, shallow flats, shell beds. That's what you want to look for. Areas that hold bait, that hold feeding opportunities, flats, cuts, things like that, current running through, all kinds of little ambush areas that's close to the route, the channels that are kind of the highways that your trout are moving through. So essentially those trout leave the main channels and come up. They basically go lateral up onto these flats, onto these areas to feed for a certain amount of time, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, whatever, and then they keep on moving. And they come in waves too. So this group here may leave in a few days, keep going. Then another group from up the marsh is coming through. They come in waves. And that's why a spot like this can be productive for a month or a month and a half, 2 months even, as fish move through in waves. They don't all move at once. But that's also why a spot like this, come the doldrums of summer, dies. At best, you're gonna get little baby trout on here and some other kind of smaller species. Because by that time, they've all moved through and they're all out. All your adult trout are out at the islands or out towards the bay and the salt. Now, if you get in a situation like this where I've got smaller fish in here, potentially some are keepers, I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. If you're just trying to catch as many as possible, I would encourage you to definitely downsize to like a 3-inch plastic. I have those with me, I could do that. I don't do that much anymore because I've found that I can usually get enough bites to keep fish if I want, but almost inevitably always I'll get bigger bites with 5-inch plastics and up. And so I'm willing to sacrifice the total number of bites to get a higher percentage or a bigger percentage of those bites to be bigger fish, better quality fish. Give me a better chance at a big fish. I kind of call these my intermediate baits, like you're anywhere from 4.5 up to 6-inch baits. And whatever kind of style you decide to go with, whether that's top water, whether it's mid-strolling these straight tail plastics, whether you're throwing a swim bait. Can you catch a bigger fish with a 3-inch paddle tail or a straight tail? Of course you can. Happens all the time. But it increases your odds going with the bigger baits. There he is. That's a good fish. What the heck is it? Hey, hand me the net. What? Hand me the net. I might have foul hooked something. Nice trout, nice trout. Go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Nope. Choked it. Is that on? So I got mullet on a flat. Mullet's still up there despite the rising sun. And so again, I'm gonna pick up that swim bait again and slow roll across these mullet in hopes that maybe there's still a trout willing to eat sitting up there amongst those mullet. Just saw a situation, an opportunity, and that's kind of how it works. You look, you know this is a flat right here, the mullet's still up there, flipping, skipping, quite a few of them. I might get 5 or 6 casts in just to see. All made possible because I got rods on the deck, different lures to pick up and go. Y rods on the deck. There he is, trout. Nice one. I love it when a plan comes together. He may not be a keeper, but nevertheless, he was laying up against those mullet. And sure enough, he ate the 5-inch mag draft. He's not big enough, but still, pretty cool. Good bite. Stop. Little guy. Even the little guys will eat the big baits. That was a great example right there. That was a 14-inch fish. And that's what I was talking about earlier, the viciousness with what they hit. That fish was 100% commit. And you can tell the difference based on the way they'll hit smaller baits, things like that. It's a kill shot. They bring their A game. They know, they see it. I'm convinced they see it as a good sized mullet. They're not grabbing it, they're trying to inhale it. Even the smaller fish will. There you go. Good one? They're up on that flat, aren't they? Isn't it? Yeah, there we go. That's definitely a keeper. My son with a mid-strolled fish. That's a XPS rockin' shad. It's about a 16, 17-inch fish. He will go in the live well. There he is. That's trout. Not a big one. He was there though. So not a big one, but he was there. Put a beat down on it. I might keep, maybe. Miami in the net. Yeah, that's a keeper. So we left this spot earlier today. Once our sun got kind of up and our bite kind of died. So we ran around where we could. It was real windy today, so we kind of had a couple other areas we looked at. Didn't really see much in the way of bait or trout. And kind of like I was watching the weather forecast and I saw there's a chance it'll cloudy up again later this afternoon around noon or 1. And so sure enough, we're starting to get a little bit of partly cloudy action, some cloud cover. So I came back to this spot knowing that the water's up and these fish are in here and very likely would feed again if you had some low light conditions that you would get from cloud cover. So put another fish in the boat right off the bat. Let's see what happens. So I'm fishing this spark shad. Spark shad's one of Megabass's swim baits that a real tight tail action. There he is, little guy. But kind of a wide body with a flat back. And what it does on a jig head or a wide gap, it glides. It's kind of designed to glide forward. Really good action, different action. So to accentuate that gliding action, I like to do a big lift, like 2-3 feet up. Get that bait up off the bottom and then let it just drift back down. And the majority of the time you'll get that bite on that drop as it's gliding down. I like to fish it on a wide gap for that weedless aspect. That way when I let it sink and let it glide, I can just really let it go to the bottom, regardless of whether there's any snags or structure. It's not always necessary if you're on kind of a clean bottom, but I just go with the wide gap for versatility. Well, that's not, so the other aspect of the wide gap I'm forgetting about is the weight is now on the belly. And so that actually also helps with that glide action. It helps that body that's already designed to do that. And so, you know, you got that belly weight, causes a forward glide even more versus straight down that you might get with a jig head. So, very important part. That's the other reason I use the wide gap, weighted wide gap. Always throw out those tide lines. They change as the tide goes up, goes down, wind direction, but you can still see it, that slicked off water. There he is, fish on, right in the tide line, just like I said. Golly, that's a good trout. I'm gonna need the net, dude. It might not be a trout. Oh, it is a trout. It might keep right at 15. Probably can't see it on camera, but there's a tide line that comes around, comes with the current around the island here, across the flat. Like I was saying, all that is where there's a little line of current, a little bit more than normal coming across that flat, depending on which way the tide's going. And so fish will be around that, because bait will follow that. Bait will get pushed by that. They'll use it as a highway. And sure enough, you'll find trout inside there. And again, that's really the only way to tell. You'll just see like a slicked off, even on a windy day like this, you'll just see a slicked off line. My biggest issue with the wind is not making it more difficult to cast, boat position. I figure all that out, you always can. It's really accessibility. I mean, you gotta kind of pick and choose. That's why I pick and choose areas on the coast where I, you know, like today, where I think fish might be transitioning through, and do I have protection from a pretty strong south wind? And I've got some protection. So it's helpful and it allows me to fish. Much smaller area than normal, but turns out fish are here and we're picking at them. That's a good one. Nice trout. Yes, sir, he choked that one. Now we're talking. It's two good trout. Look at that. Good job, man. Little man, putting some fish in the cooler. Look at that. Look where it went. Right down the hatch. That's how mid-strolling is, y'all. Right down the hatch. When they do decide to eat, it's gone. It's an 18-inch fish. Dang it. And a bite. There he is. There he is. Yeah. Should keep. There we go. It's a good fish right there, y'all. 16-inch fish right there. Choked it, roofed it. Oh yeah, 17. Well, y'all, that pretty much wraps it up. So kind of want to just give you a summary. You're gonna hear me talking throughout the video, and some of this will be a repeat, but to summarize, essentially we were able to find trout along one of our coastal rivers in an area kind of adjacent or lateral to the main channels. And so that's typically, look at the main rivers or the main bayous that dump into our Mississippi Sounds, and this could be anywhere along the Gulf Coast. Consider those highways, right? And those trout are going to move down those highways, essentially going out into our Gulf. Now, along the way, they want to stop and feed. It's just not a straight shot. They feed along the way. And so as you're trying to find these trout, you want to look for feeding areas that usually they could be a flat alongside the channel, or it could be another bayou. It can be different things. And these trout will leave the main channels and the main highways and go pretty far, say lateral, to actually find food, find bait, and set up shop and kind of gorge themselves and get ready for the spawn. Today's situation was kind of a big flat with some shell beds / sandbars that had some cuts through them. And so in this whole area, we had a bunch of mullet. That was our bait. Some little pogies too, real small ones, but mostly mullet. And the mullet are real spread out, as they usually do on flats. You'll see them congregate in certain areas where you'll notice the density of a school of mullets a little bit more in certain areas where our current breaks are and things of that nature. But ultimately very spread out. And so same thing with the trout. We'd catch one or two here and there, but we cover a lot of area, just moving through the area back and forth, let one area settle, go to another and come back. And you're just picking off trout left and right. And so our bite kind of ebbed and flowed. We had a good morning bite, kind of ebbed mid-morning, picked back up midday, bright, sunny. And then we're finishing up here about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, calling it good. We ended up with about, I think, 8 keepers. We got several around 18 inches, got some good ones. We let a 20-incher go and a 19-incher go. Typically, like anything, a lot of times I'll let 18-inch fish go too, but we were keeping a few. So anything 19 and bigger, definitely we release. You'll get to see that 20-incher on video and that 19-incher on video. We let go a lot of little guys, a lot of shorts, 14 to 15 inches. A lot of catching, a lot of fun. And so we'll just kind of a little run through the baits. So in the morning, we're always mid-strolling. My son mid-strolls a lot. So that's the Texas Custom Lures J. Watkins Series Forktail. I don't even know what color that is, but you can see it's kind of like an olive green with a little pearl belly. That showed up really well, and the trout really liked that, surprisingly, in our green colored water. A lot of times I'll contrast with a different, more natural bait profile, and that's a natural color. But for today, that kind of matching the watercolor seemed to work pretty well for my son, and we caught a few on it too. This morning I was throwing a 5-inch mag draft, Megabass mag draft. You can see it's a harness bait. Pop that little treble off right there, and it's got a little magnet set up. And so this is just basically a swim bait. You kind of slow roll. It runs fairly shallow. You can let it get deeper, but it's not very heavy. Kind of designed in the upper water column. Just slow roll, tail wag, real tight tail wag. And I love to throw this around big mullet, or mullet around this size, 5-6 inch and up mullet. And reason being is, especially in the shallow flats, you have these mullet positioned, you got trout laying up with these mullet just looking for an opportunity, and then you kind of slow roll what looks to be a mullet right over top of that trout. And you'll see me talk about in the video, it just creates just a tremendous instinctive feed for these fish. They just smoke it, and it's always back of the throat. So I caught a few on that in the morning. A lot of times, well actually I say most of the time, I prefer to throw the 6-inch version. Let me see, I got that right here. I'm gonna kind of point the rod tip at you a little bit here. That's a 6-inch version, if you see. See the difference there? 5-inch versus 6-inch. So it's not just an inch difference, it's a lot bigger profile bait too. So anyhow, usually like to throw that. Hopefully have some video to come on that. Catch a lot more fish on the bigger version, but sometimes you do need to downsize. Once the sun got up, you'll see in the video I started catching some fish on a Megabass Spark Shat. And so it's essentially you can kind of see a wide, flat back, small paddle tail. And when you put it on an extra wide gap, a weighted wide gap, in this case, this is a 4/0 owner beast, 1/8 ounce. You rig that up, and it basically glides down. Instead of just dropping straight down like a lot of jig heads will make a plastic do, it has a glide. So I like to lift it up, and then it just glides down. Kind of a slow fall, very effective. That allowed us to get some kind of lethargic fish that were bright, sunny, sitting on the bottom, but still around mullet. Maybe not actively feeding, but with that little paddle tail and that slow fall, we were able to get them to eat that. Whereas with the mid-stroll, there's periods where we couldn't get them to come up and eat because they're just kind of belly down on the bottom chilling. So those are the 3 baits we used to catch most of our fish today. So again, like I said, plenty of detail in the video, but ultimately at this time of year, it's about covering these transition areas. You find the highway that the fish are moving down, and you just basically look for likely areas along that highway. Flats with bait. It's got to have food. I always harp on it, but it's got to have food on it. It's got to have bait. And today we had lots of mullet. Today that was very visual. There was mullet everywhere. You could see them everywhere. So that's something you can see from 100 yards away, mullet jumping. Keep an eye on that. But there's other areas too. You know, it doesn't have to be a shallow flat. It can be deeper structure. But if it's holding pogies or mullet and other kind of bait, That's a key spot, and a lot of times it'll hold trout at various times throughout this springtime migration period. So in any case, hit me up on the comments, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's on YouTube. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Follow on Facebook, subscribe to YouTube, tell your friends, more the merrier. Trying to grow this thing, trying to get more of what I'm creating here out to the public, right? My aim is just to teach, and so the more I can teach, the better off. The happier I am. That's the ultimate goal, is to teach as many people as possible. Whatever it is you need to learn. If you're a well-established fisherman, maybe you'll pick up a few tips here and there from me. If you're just learning to start, you're just starting out fishing, hopefully you can pick up a lot. But trying to cater this to a little bit of everything for everybody. All right, well, again, this has been Kyle with Inshore Edge. We appreciate you following along. Talk to you later.